Guys, so today I just want to talk about my Surface Laptop Go, the first generation. I just want to talk about how awesome it is and just how happy I am with it. Now, originally, this beauty came with a really measly, just an awful 128 gig solid state drive. For some people, that might be okay. Nothing wrong with that. But if you like to store anything at all, on your computer, you're going to need at the very least 256 gigabytes, right? Well, to go for from the 128 gig to like the 256 gig, I believe was another $150, which is an absolute ripoff. And I know that it was very painful for me to buy the 256 gig model. So what I did, long story short, is I bought this 128 gig, right? And I actually upgraded the storage in it. Now, a lot of people don't think that the storage in this beauty is upgradable. Well, I have a surprise for you. In the Surface Laptop Go first and second generation, yes, the one that's newer than this one, they both do have upgradable storage. Now, I'll show you real quick. So we look here, we can see out of 512 gigs or 476, we have 240 gigabytes free. Now, as we can also see right here, I don't know if you guys can read that. Let me put this down, focus in on it. I don't know if you guys can read that, but this is the 128 gigabyte solid state drive that was in this machine. After upgrading this, I've noticed a little bit of performance improvement, but it's just been extremely nice having a very awesome laptop with a respectable amount of storage, because 256 gig is the bare minimum you want to get. So having 512 gigs, I feel like that's definitely a sweet spot. It's just enough for me to have enough storage to put what I want and what I need on here. Anything besides, games. But this isn't a gaming laptop. This works with just like games from like 20 I'd want to say like 2013 and older will work just fine on here. But again, I'm not using this for games. I'm using it for just about everything else. I'm using it for like watching YouTube, storing some files on here, Microsoft Office, and this machine's awesome for that. I've never had any issues with it. I've had this thing for about a year now, and I've just been so happy with this computer. So as we can see, just launching programs, they are super quick. It's already loaded up. FL Studio 10. That's just amazing. If we go to Glare Utilities, no, it'll ask for whatever reason, but it's loaded just like that. If I want to go to my other program, this one loads super quick. All right, well, now that I say it doesn't want to load super quick. But y'all get the point, though. This is a very solid and fast machine. And then also, too, internet browsing, this is great. Not having any issues loading the pages. I think the only minor issue that I'm not a big fan of, which is just very common amongst these computers, is the little bit of like jelly scrolling or whatever. When you're scrolling up and down a web page, you can kind of see how it looks weird, kind of like it just looks weird, and that is very common again with these computers. Unfortunately, there's nothing that you could really do about it. I have tried messing with some of the settings, couldn't quite figure it out. So, besides that, I mean, there's no huge uh, cons to this computer. Another minor con, though, are the speakers. So, the speakers do get decently loud. They're okay, but what I don't like is that the speakers are like underneath the keyboard, I believe, either underneath the keyboard or like on the very ends of the keyboard. Either way, it's not a great place for them because they didn't drill out like any holes or anything for the sound to come through. They didn't do anything for it. They just plopped these puppies right on in here, and that was it. And it's kind of disappointing, but I kind of understand that they do want to save a little bit of money. They're trying to make money on selling these machines, so I do kind of understand that. But again, it would have been nice if they would have spent the extra 10 or 20 cents to drill out those holes. But it's whatevs. And as you can see too, just kind of going through the websites and stuff, and then if I bring up like let's say uh I go to NASA, it loads up the web page just fine. Now I can brighten the screen. I had it a little dim because I had the lights off. I was watching a movie, but it brought up NASA's website fairly easy. And now it's on YouTube. Cool. Plays the YouTube video just fine. I don't want to play too much of it. Last thing I want is for my video to be taken down just because I'm playing someone else's stuff. But we can see here, no problems whatsoever. And this machine is also great for productivity, like Microsoft Office. Because it has a screen that has a 4:3. I believe it's a 4:3 aspect ratio. In other words, it's more of a square-ish screen as opposed to something like this. Now, this is a wonderful laptop. I do love Lenovo. I do love ThinkPad and everything like that. They make just awesome computers. I've never had any issues with any of their products that I've owned. But one thing I absolutely hate is the 16:9 aspect ratio. So you can see this is more of a rectangle screen. And I'm not a big fan of that just because if I'm trying to do productivity stuff like, typing documents or if I want to read web pages and everything like that, it looks nicer on here because it can fit more words on it as opposed to something that's a little bit more narrow. It can't fit as many words on it, and it's such a bummer. Sure, most movies and YouTube videos will look fine on this, but in my opinion, I think they look fine on here too. You're gonna have a little bit more black bars and everything, which it is kind of unfortunate, but you can't have the best of all worlds. You have to choose what you want most. You want something that you can read fine on, you can type documents and it looks awesome on, with a little bit of a drawback of the videos not looking as great, or would you want to just get something for mainly watching YouTube videos and everything? Because if you're more into that, something like this might be for you. But for me, I love the 4:3 screen. It's amazing. The resolution on here is solid too. I believe it's like a 1024 by 8 something, or maybe it's a 1024 by 1500 or something like that. It's not quite full HD, but again, I'm more than happy with this display just because it's still a high resolution screen, and the great thing about this too is that since it's not no ridiculous 4K panel, you get solid battery life out of this thing too. For me, I've been getting around anywhere from like 6.5 to about 7.5 hours battery life. And that's with the screen brightness at about 70 to 80%. And, I'm just typing documents, reading things online, watching some videos, mixed use. At least 6 hours, which is, for me, great. But again, this is a great laptop. I'm not trying to diss on it. I really do like it, but I hate the 16:9 screen. I never understood why companies started putting those screens in these computers. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm not a fan of it. And on top of that too, I'm not a big fan of this big ass bezel on the bottom. If anybody from Lenovo or ThinkPad or whatever is watching this, please try to do something about that. That's a lot. The last thing I want to talk about is the build quality. As we can see, it's mostly aluminum, has an aluminum chassis. The hinge is plastic, which is fine. The screen is glass. The lid is aluminum as well. I do have a USG case on it, and this case is amazing. I'd highly recommend getting it if you do have a Surface Laptop Go. 1 or 2. This will fit either one. And in the bottom, it's like I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's like a high quality plastic. Again, it's not a huge deal. A lot of people, they think that they have to get aluminum because it's high-end stuff and plastic's cheap. No, that is absolutely wrong. It depends on how the company makes that plastic or whatever this is, whatever Microsoft wants to call this stuff. I could tell Microsoft spent their time making and developing something like this, because this just feels like an amazing machine. I love taking this with me everywhere. I love going to like something basic like Starbucks and typing a review, or I love taking it to school with me and everything. It's just an amazing laptop. So so yeah, honestly, this is one of the best laptops I have ever owned. And if I had to rate it, I'd say it's a solid 8 out of 10. That being is the reason behind that is because the keyboard, it's not backlit, and that's a huge bummer to me as well. I don't want to say a huge one, but it is part of the reason because if I'm spending anything over $500, I want it to have a backlit keyboard. And unfortunately, this puppy does not have it. There's no configuration where you can get it with a backlit keyboard. You literally have to go up one tier to the 13.5 inch, and that's about $300 more. This is kind of a bummer. Honestly, that would just made this thing that much better. But yeah, no backlit keyboard. Kind of disappointing. The other reason why I gave it an 8 out of 10 is because the speakers they're just under here. I mean, like when I'm playing something, the sound's kind of like bouncing all around in there because there's no like holes or anything for the noise to come through. It's kind of a stupid design, and I don't know why they did something like that. Again, spend an extra what, 10, maybe 20 cents to put speaker grills in this puppy. Like, come on. Like, just a missed opportunity. Another reason, and the last one, it's well, two more. One is a screen. Now, a screen's not a huge one, but I know some people are not going to be a big fan of it, and they even may return it for that reason. The jelly scrolling or whatever. For me, not a big deal. It's whatever, as long as it's not like a defect to where it's going to like break it or whatever. Fine. It's not, to me, it's not a huge deal. And the last one that I didn't mention before either, that I kind of spaced on, is that the consumer models, they only allow you to buy it with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now 8 gigs, yeah, sure, that's a solid amount. Okay, nothing wrong with it. But where's the 16 gigabyte RAM versions? Like, come on. I believe Microsoft had a 16 gig RAM version for like companies. If I was a corporation or a company, whatever, I could say I want to purchase one with 16 gigabytes of memory, which is awesome, but I'm not a corporation. I'm just a person. So I am stuck with 8 gigs RAM. That is absolute garbage because for me, when I buy something like this, I want to use it for as long as I can. 16 gigs RAM would honestly boost the life anywhere from like 1 to 3 years, I'd want to say, just because 8 gigs, it's starting to become the absolute minimum in today's world. Like 4 gigs RAM is just barely enough to get by. So 8 gigs RAM, it's like it really is becoming the bare minimum. And with it being the bare minimum, it's not going to last me as long as something with 16 or at least 12 gigs RAM. Come on, Microsoft, at least roll dog a bone and let me have an option to purchase 12 gigs RAM in these machines, because that would be just so cool. Even 12 gigs would greatly increase the overall life of this machine. But since Microsoft is Microsoft, just like most companies, they only do care about money. And I do understand it up to a point, but still, come on. Meet me in the middle at like 12 gigs RAM, dude. That would be so cool. Besides that, this machine is, again, a wonderful machine. This thing is definitely more than powerful to do most of the things that you need to do, whether it's like editing full HD videos, watching YouTube videos, typing documents, just having it as like a secondary computer, because it's not an extremely expensive laptop, but it's not a cheap one. It's kind of like in the middle. This is a wonderful device, and I love using it. The keyboard feels great typing on. The trackpad is awesome. The screen, in my opinion at least, it looks really good. It's not quite full HD, and I know some people are going to be complaining about that. But you don't need anything more than what is in this machine. Like, it's still the picture quality still looks great in this machine. And if they were to put anything like a 2 or 4K display in it, it would honestly just be draining the battery. I think Microsoft did right with the resolution that they put in here. And the processor is powerful. It really is a great machine. And I get about 6 to 8 hours of battery life out of it, which is just super cool. A lot of laptops, you're lucky if you get like 4 to 5. So it's nice having something that gets me at least 6 hours on a very moderate to heavy use. And last thing before I go, I do like the port selection. You know, it has a USB 3.0 or 3.1, I believe, USB-A, USB-C, and an audio jack. And on the other side, we have a charging port, Microsoft charging port, whatever. But the cool thing about this is that I can use this USB-C port to charge my machine. Super cool. I can also use it to transfer data for monitors and everything like that. So this port, this single port opens up a whole lot of things for this computer. Amazing. Overall, would I recommend this machine even though it is a year or two old? Absolutely. If you can find it for the right price, now it being a little older, it coming with a 10th gen processor and everything like that, yes, I could still highly recommend it. All I do want to say is not to pay the full retail price for it, because if you're going to do that, my bad. If you're going to be doing that, go with the second version. You know, you're going to get a little bit more life out of it. And, you know, it's just, why pay the same price for something older if you could just get something newer for the same price? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, if you can find this for like for the 128 gig model for about $500, I think that's a very solid deal, because that's about 100 and I want to say 100 and like $50 off the original price, which in my opinion is a solid deal. You're getting something that is very powerful for most people, and it looks pretty and it functions well. I mean, what more can you want from that? Anyways, I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. I know I do talk quite a bit. I have a lot of awesome things to talk about when it comes to this machine. It's been such a solid computer. It's lasted me for a long time. No, for the last year or two that I've had it, and I can't. I'm just so happy with it. Before I go, I do want to say, do not go for the model with 64 gigabytes of internal storage, because that one uses eMMC storage. For those of you who don't know, and I would imagine a lot of you guys don't, it's totally okay. What that means is that it's basically using a SD card for the storage device. So it's not using this. It's using an SD card like that's soldered onto the logic board. So unless you know how to desolder and resolder a higher capacity drive on there, you're kind of SOL. On top of that too, those lower tier models only have 4 gigs of RAM, and like I was saying before, the 4 gigabyte model is like it's the just barely making it. It's not enough for most people nowadays. It's not going to last. It's just 4 gigs of RAM is honestly out the door. So the 8 gig model with 128 gigs of storage is what you're going to want. Anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed the video. If you didn't, feel free to dislike it. If you do like it, awesome. And please feel free to let me know what you think down in comments. Do any of you people have this laptop? And if you do, what are your thoughts on it? Is anybody thinking about buying it? And if you are, do you got any questions for me? Or yeah, just leave some comments down below and let me know what y'all think.